it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again because I was so excited to create this video since I'm going to be talking about my most favorite author of all time, Daphne du Maurier. I just love her. I love her writing style, the way how she managed to build the tension and characters and evoke all sorts of emotions in you. Because no matter what type of genre you read from her, she managed to write absolutely beautiful romances which made me smile all the time as I was reading the book. And then if she decides to write a thriller, it's just full of drama and tension and suspense, and you really have a goosebumps all the time you read it and you're curious what's gonna happen at the end of the story. And you might think that you don't know her, but let me prove you wrong, because you might not have read her books yet, but you definitely know the stories that are coming from her. Because for example, Alfred Hitchcock made adaptation of Rebecca and also Birds, which is the short story she wrote, and also now there is latest adaptation of Rebecca as well on Netflix with Lily James, and a couple years ago there was film My Cousin Rachel with Rachel Weisz. So you definitely heard about her, and I just wish that people would read more of her books because she was absolutely talented, amazing, and I really love her. So the reason why I wanted to make this video is to let people know more about her books, and hopefully it will inspire you and you will pick up some of her books as well. Right now I do have 7 books from her, and I just wish that I could have the whole collection of all of her books. That's just like a dream come true, and I wouldn't even care what kind of editions or which year they were published, because just having all of her books would be amazing. And for now I do have 2 different collections, you could say. One are these 2 books which were given to me by my grandmother, and I really cherish them, and they are from 1969. So again, traditional old smell and yellow pages, and I'm just in love with them so much. And then I have this newer collection which was given to me by one special person as well, and I cherish them very much. They are a little bit new from a couple years ago, and the good thing about this is that in the beginning you also have a little introduction and kind of an overview of the every single story which is written in these books. So that's absolutely great, and I'm very happy to have them, and I'm just gonna introduce to you because I want to talk about them, and I'm getting a little hyper again, so I need to calm down. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. But I would like to say at the beginning that maybe you have noticed that I might be a little biased when it comes to these books, so this is not any sort of reviews or anything. I'm not going to be analyzing the stories, whether they work or if they work even better. I'm just going to be talking about books I really like, so it's more sort of like book recommendation video and just spreading the word about my favorite author. So that's it, and please let me know in the comments if you know her, if you read any books from her, which one was your favorite, maybe some sort of comparison between films and the book, just anything regarding this topic. Even if you find this video like 2 years from now, please let me know, because I'm just way too excited not to know. So yeah, just let me know in the comments. And last thing, I don't have any sort of particular order in which I'm going to be talking about this book, you know, from my most favorite to least favorite, because there is no such thing as not favorite book from her. So I'm just gonna start. But I'm going to start with Rebecca, which is the first book I read from her, and I absolutely loved her. It also made me like my own name, because yeah, Becky is not my true name. So it's really absolutely brilliantly written book. The premise of the story is that our main heroine, the young girl whose name we actually never discover during the story, works as a maid for one lady, and one day in Monte Carlo she meets Maxim de Winter, who became a widower recently, and they fall in love and they get married, and she lives with him to a Menderly, which is the estate he owns. But the life there is really not what she expected or what she imagined, because it seems like everything and their whole lives are haunted by Rebecca's presence, and Rebecca was his beloved wife, and all these things leads to different events, and also there is a lot of secrets, and I really recommend you that you read about those, because I'm not gonna spoil anything. But this is something between romance and thriller, brilliantly written, brilliantly built the characters, and also the fact that you actually don't know the name of the main heroine character is also something quite interesting. And I just really recommend you to read this book, because I don't think that there is some sort of order of the books you should read when it comes to Daphne du Maurier, but I think that Rebecca, because it's so famous, it's quite easy to read, and it's quite easy to make you fall in love with the author, so highly recommend and definitely read this one. So the book number 2 I'm going to be talking about is called Frenchman's Creek, and I actually do have this book in both editions, so yay! But I'm going to be holding this one because the old one has a really old paper cover, and I'm afraid that it's just gonna fall apart. So Frenchman's Creek, the main character here is Donna, who is a countess married with 2 children, and it seems that her life is really perfect and she has no problems, because it's full of, you know, parties and celebration and tea and chatting, but that's not what she wants. She really longs for some adventure and some excitement. So one one day she decides, okay, that's enough. She takes her two kids and she lives with them to Cornwall, to another estate her husband owns called Navron. And what happens there is that she meets a French pirate. Yes, French pirate in Cornwall, and they fall in love, and that leads to a lot of different adventures and situations, and I really don't want to spoil anything, so please read this. But then eventually it leads to the decision Donna has to make at the end, whether she will give up the man she loves in order to save him, or if she will risk her own life. So yeah, what else do you need? And it's set in 1600, it's a story about love, it's beautifully written romance, which made me smile the whole time, and I mean, come on, the woman in 1600 which is wearing men's clothes, I mean, yes, 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 yes. Oh, I'm way too excited. Okay, another book here is My Cousin Rachel, which I'm sure you've seen in different adaptations on the screen, but this book is a little bit thicker than Frenchman's Creek, but not very much. You can still read it in one sitting because it's full of suspense and drama and tension, and you really want to know what's gonna happen at the end, so I highly recommend you to read this one as well. The main character here is Philip Ashley, who was orphaned as a young boy, and he was raised by his cousin Ambrose, and they had absolutely great relationship, and Ambrose wants to make him his heir after he dies. But what happens is that one day Ambrose decides to leave for Florence, and he falls there in love and he gets married and suddenly dies under very suspicious circumstances. Sometime later his new wife Rachel comes to England, and even though Philip was almost sure that she is responsible for his death, the day he sees her he almost became like bewitched by her because of how beautiful and mysterious she is, and she really seems to be this very gentle, innocent soul. So obviously it opens the question if she is the one who could be responsible for Ambrose's death, and if so, what's gonna happen to Philip? Or is she not responsible? So it's really great, and also because it's written from Philip's point of view, we as a reader don't know any more as he does, so we go on to this journey with him, and yeah, and it's really well written. And I must say I have not seen the film with Rachel Weisz, but I'm about to see it very soon, so I'm quite excited about doing comparisons between books and films because that's something I really like to do. So yeah, definitely read this one as well. Another book is Jamaica Inn, which I read quite recently. I think it was last year during the lockdown, so I highly recommend you to read this one because it's full of drama and suspense, and the way how the whole atmosphere is built in this book is absolutely incredible. The main character here is Mary, who after the death of her mother decides to leave and live with her aunt Patience. That's how I believe you pronounce her name. But very soon she realized that her aunt changed very much. She is this lost, shrinked soul who is afraid of everything, and she's scared of everything, and it is caused by her husband, who became this vicious and evil and abusive man. And very soon Mary discovers that the whole place and the whole town and even the Jamaica Inn is very creepy, and her uncle as well as the whole estate, the Jamaica Inn, is involved in some criminal actions such as smuggling or even murder. So it's very dangerous place to be for her. And later on she also meets her uncle's younger brother, and she feels very attracted to him despite herself, which is sort of a trope of a bad boy and, you know, young innocent girl, which is something I'm not a very fond of, but I really don't mind it in this book. So overall I really enjoyed this story, and there are some surprising characters coming into the story as well, and especially for the time when the book was written, so I highly recommend you to give it a shot because I really think that people are not talking very much about this book, but it's really great, so read it as well. Okay, another book is The Scapegoat, which I read also in the lockdown last year for the first time, and I really liked it because it's very strong and interesting story. And the main character here is John, the Englishman, who by a chance meets a French aristocrat Jean, and they look exactly the same, like a twins. So they're obviously surprised from that, and they spend evening together, they talk, they drink wine, and when John wakes up next morning he realized that Jean stole his identity and disappeared. So suddenly John finds himself in Frenchman's shoes, and he has this new life out of nowhere. He has new family, new business he needs to take care of, he has a wife, mother, a child, and there are just so many things he needs to deal with suddenly. And even though the family is quite strange, he becomes very fond of them, and he wants to help them and solve their problems while he tries to discover what truly happened and who is Jean and how is it they look so much alike. So this book is really interesting, it's really character driven, quite suspicious with a lot of tension, and I really enjoyed reading it. So another book I have here is The Hungry Hill in this older edition, which actually have two books there, Frenchman's Creek and also Hungry Hill, but I must say that when I checked YouTube I did not find a single video talking about the Hungry Hill book, which is really surprising for me, but in the same time I think I understand, because this book actually is set in 1820 until 1920, so it's 100 years, and it speaks about 5 generations of Irish family of Brodericks. They became very rich because they were extracting the treasures from the Hungry Hill, and there is also a family of Donovans who believes that basically everything the Brodericks own, the estate, the hill and all the treasures, belongs to them by a law. So there is this whole conflict going on for 5 generations, which started by one member of Donovan's family shooting one member of Broderick's family, and from there it just goes for 5 generations on. So this book actually contains 5 different books inside, and each of them is dedicated to one main character from each generation. So I know it might sound a little confusing, but I read this book many years ago. I don't actually remember everything what happened there, but still I remember enjoying it and going through it quite quickly. So I definitely would recommend you to read this one as well, because as I said, people don't read this book very much, or at least they don't talk about very much from what I discovered, and it's really interesting to read this sort of generation story, which was also inspired by the ancestors of Daphne du Maurier herself, who were also Irish. So it's a very interesting thing, and yeah, I highly recommend you to read this one. Alright, so very slowly I'm moving towards the end, so if you're still here, thank you so much, it's amazing. And the book I will mention now is the book which is not written by Daphne du Maurier, but it's about her, and I already mentioned this book in one of my previous videos, which I will link up here, so you can see it as well. But this book is called Menderly Forever by Tatiana de Rosnay, and it's absolutely beautifully written biography about Daphne du Maurier's life from the day she was born until the day she dies, and it contains all the information you could be looking for, possibly if you like the author, because there are relationships she has with her family, with her siblings, working process, how she came up with an idea for every single book, for example Rebecca, and like all the books I already mentioned. There is also photographs from her life, and it also contains some bits and pieces from the journals she was writing for herself, and also letters, and also some original reviews of the first publishing of her books. So it's something really amazing and quite surprising, I must say, because since I do love Daphne du Maurier, as you can say from this video, I was doing quite a lot of research on her life previously, but still in this book I found quite a lot of information that were still new for me. So if you like Daphne du Maurier or you want to know more about her life, I highly recommend you to read this book, because it's really amazing and I love it. Alright my friends, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for staying with me until this point. I'm really glad I could be talking about this author once again, and please let me know in the comments, have you read any of her book, which one was your favorite, if there is any biographical books which I did not read from her and I really should. So anything regarding this topic, let me know, and I will see you with another video very soon, and you take care meanwhile. Bye bye!